Here is a counterintuitive reality that I think we need to start with. When content teams fail, and I mean really crash and burn, or, just slowly fade into irrelevance where the budget gets cut and the team gets dissolved, it is almost never because they ran out of ideas.
That's so true. In fact, I would argue it's usually the exact opposite problem, isn't it?
It is. They are absolutely drowning in ideas. They have
Yeah.
too many. They're reacting to everything. The reason they lose, especially now in the landscape of 2026, is because they lack a system. They don't have a way to turn that massive pile of possibilities into a short, defensible set of decisions.
We can't say no.
They have no mechanism to say no.
It's the paradox of choice, but for marketing strategy. And I think the stakes have just changed so dramatically. I mean, if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, the whole publish more thing was a pretty viable strategy.
Oh, for sure. It was a volume game.
It was a total volume game. You could throw enough spaghetti at the wall and, something would eventually stick. But trying to do that in 2026, that's just a recipe for disaster.
It's a recipe for burnout and for getting your budget cut.
Exactly.
Because of how search has evolved, because of AI summaries just compressing everyone's attention. More just means more noise. It doesn't mean more impact.
Right, so you need a way to decide what not to do.
You absolutely need a way to decide what not to do. And that is what we are really going to dig into today.
It's about that shift, I think, from just guessing to actually winning. It's about bringing some operational discipline to what can be a very chaotic function.
Welcome to the Content Ship Podcast. This is a show about how content actually works today, not how it used to work. We talk about search, AI systems, and the operational side of producing content that survives change.
This podcast is created by people who care deeply about their craft, working intentionally with AI, not to replace human judgment, but to extend it. That mindset is exactly why we built Content Ship, to give a single expert inside a company the kind of leverage and structure that used to require an entire team.
And stick with us today, because by the end of this deep dive, you aren't just going to understand the theory behind all of this. We are going to break down the specific difference between a calendar and a planner, which I know it sounds like semantics, but it's actually a really crucial distinction.
It's fundamental.
It is. We are also going to walk through 10 very specific tactics that are working right now to secure authority and drive traffic. And finally, and this is maybe the most important part, we've got a 30-day sprint plan to help you build your own roadmap from scratch.
It's a pretty packed agenda, but I think if you follow this, you really can solve that Monday morning panic.
I love that phrase, the Monday morning panic. Let's start right there. Let's unpack this first major concept you brought up, the marketing planner versus the calendar. Because I think a lot of people, myself included in the past, have used these terms interchangeably. Check the content calendar, check the planner. It sounds like it's the same document.
It does, and that's why it's such a dangerous mistake. It's a really fundamental error in thinking, and it's one of the big reasons teams get stuck on that hamster wheel we were just talking about.
Okay, so break it down for us. What is the functional difference?
Think of it this way. A calendar is a logistical document. It's just a grid. It tells you when things are going to happen. It says, okay, blog post goes live Tuesday at 9 a.m., the newsletter goes out Thursday afternoon, a tweet goes out Friday morning.
Right. It's a schedule, a list of deadlines.
It's purely a schedule. It handles the when. But a planner is a strategic document. A planner has to explain why those things deserve to exist in the first place.
Okay.
It connects the activity to an actual outcome. It forces you up front to ask the hard questions like, does this piece of work actually map to a business goal? And what evidence do I have that this is going to work?
I really love that distinction. The calendar is the when, but the planner is the why. And I guess in the landscape we're all operating in today, this really tough 2026 environment, that why has never been harder to pin down, has it?
Well, just look at the pressure that teams are under. I mean, search results are incredibly difficult to crack now. You've got AI agents and, those AI-powered summaries answering all the basic questions right there on the results page.
So the click-through rates are plummeting for a lot of basic informational queries.
They are. And just the way people discover content is completely different. The bar for quality has just skyrocketed. So if your whole strategy is just filling slots on a calendar because it's Tuesday and you feel like you need to post something, you're essentially just throwing resources into a black hole.
So the planner's real job then is to act as a filter. It's there to narrow the scope of what's possible.
Exactly. Its job is to standardize your decisions. It stops you from waking up on Monday morning and having that panic meeting where you ask, so, what should we write about this week? The planner should have already answered that question based on data, not just on, who had the most coffee.
But that raises a really important question for me. If the difference is so clear and the value is so obvious, why do so many teams struggle to maintain a planner? Why do they always seem to default back to just, filling the calendar? I see it all the time. Teams will start with this beautiful strategy in January.
Oh, yes. The Q1 strategy deck.
The beautiful deck, and by March, they are just churning out stuff to fill the dates. What's going on there?
It's usually one of three reasons, and I think they're all very human reasons. The first one is what I call vibes.
Vibes. Okay, you have to stop me there because vibes-based marketing sounds like something a very expensive Gen Z consultant would try to sell me. I suspect you mean something a bit more chaotic.
I wish it was a coherent strategy. No, look, we've all been in this meeting. It's Tuesday morning. Everyone has their coffee. The marketing director walks in, looks at the whiteboard, and says, "Okay, team, what are we publishing this week?" And just this dead silence descends on the room.
The dreaded blank stare. I know it well. I've been on both sides of that stare.
We all have. So what happens? Someone gets nervous and says, "Well, I saw a really cool article about the metaverse yesterday," or, "Hey, our biggest competitor just tweeted about AI agents. We should probably say something about that."
Or the worst one. The CEO walked by your desk earlier and said, "Why aren't we on TikTok?"
That's the kill shot right there. That's the ultimate vibe. It's totally reactive. It's panic-induced creativity.
You're calling it FOMO disguised as strategy.
It is. That's exactly what vibes-based marketing is. You're choosing topics based on the emotional temperature of the room or what's trending on Twitter for the next 5 minutes rather than asking, what is our customer actually struggling with right now?
I've definitely been guilty of this in the past. It feels productive in the moment, doesn't it? You feel like you're joining the conversation.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's a trap.
It's a massive trap because vibes don't compound. If you write a post about some trending topic today, that's great, but is anyone going to search for that in 6 months? Or a year?
No, it's completely disposable. It has the shelf life of a mayfly.
It's disposable. A real planner forces you to ignore the vibes and look at the actual data. It forces you to ask those hard questions like, is there real durable search volume for this topic? Or does our CEO just think it's cool?
That is a very dangerous question to ask in some companies.
It is. But that's the job. And the planner becomes your shield in that conversation. When the CEO comes in with a vibe, you can point to the planner and say, okay, we can absolutely do that, but here's the trade-off. We'll have to bump this other thing that we've already validated is tied to $50,000 in potential pipeline.
And that changes the conversation immediately, doesn't it?
Completely. It quantifies the cost of distraction.
Okay, so vibes is the first killer of a good plan. What's the second reason that these planners so often break down?
The second reason is a complete failure to make trade-offs. It's the tendency to say yes to absolutely everything. We're going to do SEO, and we're going to do social, and video, and webinars, and a podcast, and thought leadership, and a daily newsletter.
And we're going to do all of it with a team of 2 people, one of whom is an intern who started last week.
Precisely. And what's the result of that? You get mediocrity across the board. You end up with, C- work in 6 different channels instead of what you really need, which is A+ work in 2 channels.
A good planner, then, forces you to admit your own limitations, to say, look, we can only do 2 of these things really well this quarter.
It's a hard conversation to have, especially with leadership who just wants to see activity. They want to see the calendar full, but you have to have it.
Because activity doesn't pay the bills. Outcomes do.
Exactly. And that leads directly to the third reason planners break, the complete lack of a feedback loop. Teams will ship content, but they never define what success looks like before they ship it.
So they never learn.
They never learn. They just keep publishing. The marketing department becomes a factory line that produces widgets, not a laboratory that runs experiments.
Okay, so a durable, effective planner basically does the opposite of those 3 things. It filters out the vibes, it forces the trade-offs, and it absolutely insists on measurement.
That's it in a nutshell. It turns content from a sort of creative art project into a governed, predictable business process.
All right, so let's get really practical here. If we want to build this thing, what does the workflow actually look like? Because it sounds great in theory, but on a Tuesday morning when you're staring at a blank screen, how do you actually execute this? I'm guessing it's not just sitting in a room and brainstorming.
No, absolutely not. The best way to think of it is as a pipeline, like a manufacturing pipeline with very specific checkpoints or gates. You don't just jump to writing. An idea has to pass through the gates, and if an idea doesn't pass a gate, it dies. And that's okay.
You want ideas to die early in the process
Yeah,
before you've invested resources.
exactly. Fail cheap, fail fast.
Okay, walk us through the steps. What's the very first gate in this pipeline?
Step one is to collect signals. You cannot plan in a vacuum. You need a constant stream of inputs. And this means looking at search demand, yes, using tools to see what actual humans are typing into Google.
That's the table stakes.
That's table stakes. But it also means looking at the product questions your customers are asking your support team every day. It means reading industry news to understand shifts in the market. It means looking at what your competitors are doing, not to copy them, but to understand where the gaps are in their strategy.
So you're basically gathering raw intelligence from all these different sources. You're building that pile of possibilities we talked about, but it's based on data, not on vibes.
That's the key. Then, once you have that raw material, you move to step two, which is to classify intent. And this is the one that most teams, I think, completely screw up. It is so crucial. You have to distinguish between informational, commercial, navigational, and transactional intent.
Okay, let's double click on this concept of intent, because I think most people hear search intent and they just think, oh, it means what the user wants. But in the operational workflow you're describing, it's actually a formal classification system. You're literally tagging things.
You have to. You cannot just guess at intent. In the contentship framework, we look at 4 very distinct buckets. If you get the bucket wrong, your content will fail, period. It doesn't matter how well it's written.
Okay, walk us through those 4 buckets.
So the first and most common one is informational. This is the user asking what is something or how to do something. The user has a problem and they just want an answer. They're in learning mode. They are not trying to buy anything yet.
Got it. Learning mode.
Then you have navigational. This is when someone types in HubSpot login or Nike support. They already know exactly where they want to go. They're just using Google as the front door. You generally can't win these keywords if you aren't the brand they're looking for.
Right. Don't waste your time writing a blog post trying to rank for a competitor's login page. It's a total waste of time.
You'd be surprised how many people try. Then we get to the money. This is commercial investigation. This is the comparison phase of the journey. The search query looks like best CRM for small business or Asana versus Trello.
Okay, so this is where the user knows a solution like yours exists, but they're actively shopping around. They're comparing options.
Exactly. And finally, you have transactional. The user is ready to buy or take a specific action. They're searching for buy iPhone 15 or download free trial of contentship. The intent is crystal clear.
So why does this formal distinction matter so much for the planner? Why can't I just write a really good article and hope it works for whatever the intent is?
Let's play a little game. Let's say the keyword you've collected is marketing budget template. That's the raw signal. Now, if you look at that signal and you decide to write a 3,000-word philosophical essay called The Enduring Importance of Financial Discipline in Modern Marketing, what happens when you publish it?
I'm going to guess that I do not rank on page 1 for marketing budget template.
You don't exist. You're completely invisible to that searcher because the user typed the word template. That signals a transactional or commercial intent. They want a spreadsheet. They want a tool they can download. They do not want a philosophy lecture no matter how well written it is.
So if I don't classify the intent correctly as transactional in the planner, I'm going to assign the wrong writer, produce the completely wrong format, and waste 2 weeks of work.
Precisely. You have to match the format to the intent. If the user's intent is list, you write a listicle. If their intent is definition, you write a glossary entry. The planner is the document where you make that critical decision before a single word gets written.
That's a fantastic point. Okay, so you collect the signals, you classify what the user actually wants. What's step 3 in the pipeline?
Step 3 is to prioritize with constraints. This goes right back to that trade-offs conversation we had. You pick a realistic time horizon, let's say 4 to 12 weeks, and you set a hard production limit. If you are a small team, maybe that limit is 1 or 2 net new, high-quality pieces of content per week.
And that's it. You just commit to saying, we are only doing 2 this week, even if you have 10 good ideas.
You have to. You absolutely have to. If you put 10 things into the hopper, but you only have the production capacity for 2, you're just creating a bottleneck. You're creating stress for the team, and quality inevitably drops. You have to be ruthless here. You look at your list of classified, validated signals and ask, of all these great ideas, which 2 will move the needle the most in the next 8 weeks?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So step 4.
Plan distribution upfront. This is the one that everybody skips. What most teams do is they write the piece, they publish it, and then they have a meeting to say, okay, how do we promote this thing?
Which usually just results in posting a link on LinkedIn with the caption, check out our new blog post.
Exactly, and nobody cares. In a good planner, you decide on the repurposing and distribution strategy before you even start the draft. You say, okay, this blog post is our primary asset. It will also become a 3-part newsletter segment and a 5-part Twitter thread.
So the distribution is baked into the creation process itself.
It has to be. You write the tweet thread while you write the post. It's not an afterthought. It's part of the deliverable. It makes everything so much more integrated and efficient.
And what's the final step, step 5?
Measure and update. You need a fixed cadence, I recommend every 2 weeks, where you sit down and review the metrics for what you've shipped. Did it work? If yes, how can we double down? If no, what's our hypothesis for why it failed? This is what closes the loop and turns the factory into a laboratory.
And this is where tooling comes in, right? This is where a platform can help manage this process.
It is. I mean, tooling like what we've built with ContentShip isn't there to do the thinking for you. It's there to govern this system. It helps you catch those signals, score the opportunities so you aren't just guessing, and manage that 5-step workflow from signal to measurement. It's about creating a cleaner, more defensible decision system, not just a faster typewriter.
Okay, so we have the system. We have the pipeline. Now let's talk about what we are actually putting into that pipeline. The source material for this deep dive outlines 10 specific tactics that are really winning in 2026. And I want to go through these because they cover everything from, core search strategy to high-level storytelling.
And just to clarify before we dive in, the goal isn't to do all 10 of these at full speed simultaneously.
Right, because that would completely violate the prioritize with constraints rule we just spent 10 minutes talking about.
Exactly. Think of these as a menu of levers. You pull the 2 or 3 levers that make the most sense for your current business goals and your team's capabilities.
Great clarification. Okay, let's start with the first group of tactics. These are all focused on the fundamentals. Search and authority. Tactic number 1 is analyze and satisfy search intent. We've already touched on this with the template versus essay example, but let's go a little deeper. What are the nuances here that people miss?
The core insight, as we said, is that 2 articles can target the exact same keyword, but only one will win. And the winner is always the one that better matches the intent of the user, not just the string of words they typed. But there's another, more advanced layer to this now that Google calls information gain.
Information gate. I'm seeing that phrase pop up more and more in SEO circles. What does it actually mean in practice?
It asks a very simple question. Did the user learn something new from your page that they couldn't get from the other top-ranking results? Google's getting incredibly good at spotting what I'd call copycat content.
The echo chamber.
The echo chamber, exactly. Yeah. If you search for how to boil an egg, and you click on the top 3 results, and they all say the exact same thing in the exact same order. 1, put egg in water. 2, boil water. 3, wait 10 minutes. The second and third results you clicked on have 0 information gain.
They're completely redundant. They don't add any new value to the user's experience.
None. So to win in 2026, you need to add something new to the conversation. Maybe it's new data. Maybe it's a counterintuitive angle. Maybe it's a personal anecdote or a better visualization. If all you're doing is rewriting what's already ranking in the top 3 results, you have to ask yourself, why should Google rank you? You aren't adding any value to their index.
And for anyone listening who feels, a bit overwhelmed by the technical side of SEO, the source material mentions the SEO starter guide as a good baseline. You don't need to be a technical wizard, but you do need to have that basic hygiene in place.
You do. But honestly, if you just focus on matching the intent and adding information gain, that's 80% of the battle right there.
Okay, let's move to tactic number 2. Leverage primary data. This is one of my personal favorites because when it's done well, it feels like a cheat code for content.
It absolutely is a cheat code because it cannot be easily copied. If you write a generic advice article, ChatGPT or a competitor can spit out a similar version in 10 seconds. But if you have proprietary data that only you have access to, that is a durable, defensible asset.
I can hear people listening to this right now saying, that's great, but I don't have a research department. I don't have a data scientist on my team. I'm just a marketing manager.
And that's the biggest misconception about this tactic. You don't need a formal research department. You have what I call messy data right now sitting in your systems. That is incredibly valuable.
Right. Give us an example. What is messy data?
All right. Let's say you run a SaaS company that makes help desk software. You don't have a big state of customer service report, but what you do have is a database with 50,000 anonymous support tickets from all your customers. You could run a very simple query. What day of the week do people submit the most angry tickets?
That's a fascinating question. The Monday Rage Report.
Exactly. If you run that query and find out that, say, 40% of all angry customer tickets come in on Monday morning between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., you can write a piece called Why Customer Support is Broken on Mondays. Data from 50,000 tickets.
That is a fantastic headline. No AI can write that. No competitor can copy that data. It's unique to you.
And the press loves that kind of stuff. It validates your existence beyond just, giving the same 5 tips everyone else is giving. I mean, think about Spotify Wrapped. That is the ultimate example of this. It's just your own usage data repackaged and given back to you. But it works because it helps people understand themselves. If you can use your data to help your customers understand themselves or their market better, you will win.
Okay, tactic number 3, topic clusters. Now, I feel like cluster is one of those buzzwords that SEO agencies use to sound expensive. Oh, we need to build out a comprehensive cluster strategy for you. But underneath all the jargon, this is really just about information architecture, isn't it?
It's purely about organization. It's about making sense of your content. Think of it this way. If you walk into a library and all the books are just thrown in a giant pile in the middle of the floor, can you find what you need?
No. I'd turn around and walk right out.
Exactly. And sadly, that's what most corporate blogs look like to Google. They're just a pile of 500 random blog posts published over 5 years. Google's spider crawls it and says, I have no idea what these people are actually experts in. They wrote one post about cats, one about crypto, and one about marketing automation.
It's just a chronological list of disconnected ideas. So the topic cluster strategy organizes the library.
It builds the sections. So you start with what's called the pillar page. This is the bookshelf. Let's say your main topic is remote work. The pillar page would be a comprehensive, high-level guide to everything about remote work. It's broad. It covers all the basics.
The ultimate guide to remote work.
Right. But an ultimate guide isn't enough. You need the books on the shelf. Those are your cluster pages. These are narrow and deep. One page on best microphones for Zoom calls. One page on how to manage different time zones. One page on the art of asynchronous communication.
And here's the magic part, the glue that holds it all together.
The internal linking. The pillar page links out to every single one of its cluster pages. And crucially, every cluster page links back up to the pillar.
Why is that specific two-way linking structure so important for how search engines see this?
Because it passes authority, or what some people call link juice. Imagine your best microphones post goes viral. It gets a ton of high-quality backlinks from major tech sites. Because that page links back up to your main remote work pillar, all of that juice, that authority flows up the chain. It lifts the authority of the entire section.
So by winning on these smaller, very specific questions, you actually help yourself eventually rank for the big, highly competitive terms like remote work.
Exactly. A cluster is a team of content working together. A random blog post is a lone wolf. The team almost always wins. But the constraint here is vital. Don't start a cluster you can't finish. It is far better to build one small, complete house one pillar and 3 or 4 supporting posts than to lay the foundation for a giant mansion and never put the roof on.
That's a great visual. And the source material mentions Google's Search Quality Rater guidelines in this context. Why is that document relevant here?
That's a document that Google gives to its human quality raters to help them evaluate search results. And it puts a massive emphasis on purpose and trust. When you build a coherent topic cluster, you are demonstrating to Google that you have a comprehensive purpose and that you are a trustworthy, authoritative source on that specific topic. It signals that you aren't just a fly-by-night content farm churning out random articles.
Okay, so those are the big search and authority levers. Analyze intent, use primary data, and build clusters. Now let's shift gears. This is where it gets really interesting for teams that are maybe resource constrained and need to move fast. The next section of tactics is all about efficiency and funnels. And we start with tactic number 4, repurpose existing content.
This is the ultimate efficiency play. And this is a very big but, you cannot let it turn into busy work.
Right. I feel like repurposing has become a buzzword for spamming. We see people taking one mediocre blog post and turning it into 10 bad tweets and a blurry infographic.
Exactly. The rule should be this: only repurpose content that has already proved it deserves to live.
Ooh, I like that phrasing. Deserves to live.
If you wrote a blog post and nobody read it, nobody shared it, and it drove 0 leads, Why on earth would you turn that into a LinkedIn carousel? You're just amplifying your own noise. You're scaling your mediocrity.
So you need to wait for the signal from the market first.
Yes. Wait for the traffic, the high share counts, or the high save counts on social. Once you have a clear winner, then you apply the constraint. One primary piece of content equals 2 high-quality derivatives, not 12. 2. Maybe it's a great newsletter and a really insightful social thread. The goal is to maintain the quality, not just change the format.
Let's talk tactic number 5, the maintainable funnel. This addresses a huge pain point I see all the time. Teams have tons of traffic, but they have no leads. They're getting high fives from the CEO for page views, but the sales team is starving for opportunities.
That's the classic awareness trap. You have 1,000 people a day reading your What is X articles, but nobody is actually buying your product because you haven't given them a clear path to purchase. You built a great library, but there's no checkout desk.
So how does the planner specifically fix this problem?
You tag every single asset you plan to create by its funnel stage. Tofu, top of funnel, mofu, middle of funnel, and bofu, bottom of funnel. Then you just look at the mix.
Can you define those 3 stages quickly for us?
Sure. Tofu is pure awareness. This is content that answers, what is a CRM? Mofu is the consideration or evaluation stage. This is content like how to choose the right CRM for your business. And bofu is the decision stage. This is content like HubSpot versus Salesforce pricing comparison.
And if you look at your planner and the mix is completely lopsided,
Then you fix it. If you have 12 tofu awareness posts planned for the quarter and 0 bofu implementation posts, you have a serious problem. You have a leaky bucket. You're pouring traffic in the top, and it's all leaking out the bottom without converting.
so a good planner ensures balance.
It ensures balance. For a small team, maybe the goal is 2 awareness pieces, 1 evaluation piece, and 1 decision piece a month. That simple ratio ensures you aren't just filling the bucket while it leaks out the bottom.
Okay, tactic number 6, gated content. Now, this is a bit controversial, isn't it? Some people in marketing say ungate everything, information wants to be free, others want to gate every single thing. What's the verdict for 2026?
Gated content absolutely still works if the value exchange is fair.
The fair trade concept for content.
Exactly. If I give you my email address, that is a currency. I'm
Right.
paying you with my privacy and my future attention. If you gate a basic PDF version of a blog post that I could have just read for free on your site, I'm going to feel cheated. I'm going to be annoyed. I will probably unsubscribe from your list immediately.
So what's actually worth an email address these days?
Something that saves me a significant amount of time or gives me unique insight. A well-designed calculator, a ready-to-use template that I can use in my job today, a benchmark report that tells me exactly how I compare to my peers. It has to have high utility.
And the friction of the form itself matters too, right?
It's huge. If you ask me for 10 fields, name, company, phone number, annual revenue, my mother's maiden name, just for a 1-page checklist, you are going to lose almost everyone. The amount of friction in the form must match the perceived value of the content.
And crucially, you need a follow-up plan.
You absolutely must have a clear follow-up plan defined. If I download your template and I never hear from you again, or worse, I just get a generic buy my product now email, you've completely wasted the opportunity and the trust I just gave you.
So you have to define the next step in their journey before you even build the gate.
Always. Every single time.
Okay, let's move to the final set of tactics. This group is all about differentiation. In a world where everyone has AI tools that can generate generic content, how do you actually stand out? Let's start with tactic number 7, thought leadership.
This is a term that gets abused so much.
It really does. It usually just means someone with a LinkedIn account who posts motivational quotes.
Right. Rise and grind. That is not thought leadership. Real thought leadership isn't fluff. It is a point of view, a specific perspective that is backed by receipts.
Receipts. I love that word in this context.
By receipts, I mean evidence. It's backed by your unique experience. It's backed by the constraints you've faced and overcome. It's saying, we believe X because we tried Y and it failed spectacularly, and here is the data to prove it. It's having a distinct and sometimes controversial perspective that comes from actually doing the work, not just observing it from the sidelines.
So it's less about making grand pronouncements like, here is the future of marketing, and more about being specific and saying, here's what we learned launching this one feature last week.
Exactly. It's grounded in reality. And there's a really important governance aspect to this as well. Your planner needs to document what you will not comment on. You do not need to have a hot take on every single trending topic. That's how brands get themselves into trouble. Pick your lanes, own them with evidence, and have the discipline to ignore the rest of the noise.
All right, tactic number 8, skyscraper content. It's kind of an old school SEO term, but how has the definition of it changed for 2026?
The old definition, the one from maybe 10 years ago, was simply find the best article on a topic and make yours longer.
Right, they have a list of 10 tips, so I'll write a list of 20 tips.
In 2026, longer does not automatically mean better. In fact, it often means worse because people's attention spans are so much shorter. Today, the skyscraper technique means improving the utility of the content. Can you structure it better to match the user's intent? Can you add that primary data we talked about earlier? Can you make it more actionable with better examples or a downloadable component?
So it's not about the length, it's about the density of the value you provide.
Precisely. And the hidden cost here, the one everyone forgets, is outreach. If you build a beautiful skyscraper piece of content, you have to tell people about it. If your content plan doesn't include dedicated time for promotion and outreach, you're just building a very tall building in the middle of a desert where no one can see it.
Tactic number 9, user-generated content, UGC.
This is a massive production multiplier. If you can get your community of users or customers to create content for you, you can scale your efforts without adding headcount. But, and this is key, it needs scaffolding.
Scaffolding? What do you mean by that?
You can't just tweet out, hey, everyone, make some cool stuff for us. It doesn't work. You need to give them a very clear prompt, you need to give them a format, and you need to give them a reward. Look at GoPro's Photo of the Day challenge. It's a very specific challenge with a very specific reward exposure and sometimes cash prizes.
What does that look like in the B2B software context?
It looks like How We Did It stories. You can ask your best customers to share a screenshot of how they organize their dashboard in your tool, or ask them to share their implementation story. It validates your product and gives you a stream of content that feels incredibly authentic and trustworthy.
And finally, tactic number 10, storytelling.
This is really the wrapper that can go around everything else we've talked about. You know the old saying, facts tell, stories sell. But in the age of AI, I think storytelling is actually a discovery hack as well.
How so? What do you mean by that?
AI systems, like the ones that power search engines and summarization tools, actually prefer specific claims and grounded examples over abstract, fluffy language. So if you tell a story with a very specific, predictable structure, situation, constraint, decision, result, lesson, that is highly structured data for an AI to parse, it's much easier for a machine to understand, summarize, and cite than a wandering opinion piece.
So that structure again is situation, constraint, decision, result, and lesson.
Memorize that structure. It works for case studies, it works for LinkedIn posts, it even works for internal memos when you're trying to get buy-in for a project. It forces you to be specific and to ground your points in reality.
We have covered a massive amount of ground here, 10 different tactics. But before we get to the how to get started part, I just want to take a quick pause. If you are listening to this and you're nodding along thinking, okay, I really need to stop guessing and start building this system, do us a favor. Share this deep dive with one other person on your team. It helps us, but more importantly, it helps you get the buy-in you'll need for what we're about to discuss next, which is how to actually measure all of this work.
Because without measurement, the planner is just a wish list, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a document full of hopes.
It is. So let's pivot to measurement. This is section 6.
Yeah.
How do we stop the planner from just being a publishing machine and turn it into a learning engine?
The most important first step is you have to separate your metrics into 2 distinct buckets, leading indicators and outcomes.
Okay, what's the difference between the two? Leading indicators tell you if your system is working correctly. They're process metrics. Are we publishing on time? Are our new pages getting indexed by Google? Are our keyword rankings moving up? Are people engaging with the content through comments or shares? These are the early warning signs that tell you if you're on the right track.
And outcomes are the bottom line results.
Outcomes are the business results. Signups, pipeline generated, closed won revenue. The big problem is that outcomes lag significantly behind the activity. You might write a brilliant SEO post today, and it might not generate a qualified lead for 3 or even 6 months.
And if you only look at the outcome metrics,
You will kill a winning strategy way too early because you didn't see the revenue in week 1. It's such a common trap. We see it all the time. We tried SEO for a month and didn't get rich, so we stopped.
exactly, you need to measure in realistic windows.
Yeah.
SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. You wouldn't check your time after the first 100 meters of the marathon and decide you failed. You have to give it time to work.
You do.
So what are the, say, 3 to 5 essential metrics we should actually be tracking? if we had to boil it down to a small dashboard?
Okay, number one, organic traffic to non-brand pages. This is critical because it tells you if you are attracting new people to your brand, not just capturing demand from people who already know your name. And you should segment this by your topic clusters to see which of your topics are actually resonating with the market.
Makes sense. What's number 2?
Number 2 is ranking distribution. Don't obsess over your rank for one single keyword. Instead, look at the bigger picture. How many total keywords do you have ranking in the top 3, the top 10, the top 20? The important thing is the overall trend moving up and to the right.
That's a much healthier way to look at it. It's a portfolio approach.
It is. Number 3, conversions per content group. Even if your marketing attribution is messy, and let's be honest, it always is, you want to know. Are the people who read our integrations pages signing up for a trial at a higher rate than the people who are reading our company culture pages? It helps you understand which content is actually driving action.
Okay, what's number 4?
Repurposing yield. This is a metric that keeps you honest on your efficiency. For each primary asset we shipped, how many secondary assets did we actually create and distribute? If that number is consistently 0, your distribution system is broken.
And the last one, number 5.
Cycle time. How long does it take you to go from an approved idea in the planner to a published piece of content? If it takes 6 weeks to get a simple blog post out the door, your internal system is too slow and bureaucratic for 2026. You need to find and eliminate the friction.
And you review these?
Yeah.
When? What's the cadence?
Every 2 weeks. Put a 30-minute ritual on the calendar for the core team. And it's not a status update meeting. It is a decision-making meeting. Based on this data, what stays in the plan, what gets cut, and what new tests do we want to run next?
Okay, this is the part I think everyone has been waiting for, the 30-day setup sprint.
Yeah.
I'm a listener. I'm motivated by everything we've talked about. I want to build this, but I don't want to spend the next 6 months planning to plan. I want to be up and running in 30 days. Walk me through the 4 weeks.
Let's do it. Week 1 is all about constraints.
You start by saying no.
You basically do. Pick a time horizon. I'd suggest the next 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Set a shipping limit that you know you can hit without killing your team. Maybe it's 1 new post a week. And most importantly, define 1 primary persona and 1 secondary persona. Do not try to target the CEO, the CTO, and the marketing intern all at the same time. Pick 1 to win with.
Done. Okay, week 2.
Week 2 is for signals. You're going to do a lightweight keyword and topic research sweep. You are not trying to find every keyword in the entire universe. Your goal is to find 20 to 40 queries that you can plausibly win in the near future.
And plausibly win means what exactly?
It means a good combination of low keyword difficulty and high user intent. You're looking for questions where the current top-ranking answers are mediocre, and you know you can create something significantly better.
Okay, that makes sense. Week 3.
Week 3 is time to map the cluster. You take those 20 to 40 signals you found and you start to organize them. Pick 1 pillar topic to be your focus for the first sprint. Outline 3 to 5 supporting cluster pages. And then do a quick funnel check. Make sure you have at least 1 middle of funnel or bottom of funnel asset in that initial plan. Don't just build a list of what is articles.
And finally, week 4.
Week 4 is ship and document. Get that first cycle of content moving through your new pipeline. But crucially, while you're doing it, you need to define done. What does a finished draft look like? Who needs to review it? What's the checklist for publishing and distribution? Document that workflow so it doesn't fall apart the moment you get busy in week 5.
And the source material actually describes a great template for what this planner could look like.
Yep.
It's a simple visual, but it's really powerful.
It is. And it doesn't matter if you use a spreadsheet or Notion or a tool like ContentShip. The columns are what matter. You need week. Goal for that week, intent classification, asset type, target keyword, funnel stage, a specific repurpose plan, and the primary metric you'll use to judge success.
I love that repurpose plan is its own dedicated column. It forces you to think about it up front.
If that column is blank, your plan for that piece of content is not finished.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean? We've gone from the very high-level philosophy of why planners fail, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of week 4 documentation. What's the big takeaway?
I think it means that the era of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks is officially over. The teams that are going to win in 2026 and beyond are the ones who treat content like a product. They have a clear roadmap, they operate with constraints, they measure their outcomes obsessively.
It's about being truly intentional instead of just being busy.
It is. And, at the end of the day, ContentShip, both the concept we've been discussing and the platform itself is designed to be that operating layer for your team. It's about scoring those opportunities, governing the workflow, and giving you the structure you need so you don't drown in the noise of possibilities.
And my final thought for everyone listening is this. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the idea of 10 tactics and a 5-step workflow in a 30-day sprint, just start smaller.
Absolutely. 100%.
Pick one pillar topic.
Yeah.
Write 4 pages, just 4, and measure them diligently for a month. You will have better data and more clarity in 30 days by doing that than if you spent those same 30 days trying to build the perfect, comprehensive strategy that covers everything.
Action generates information. You have to get moving.
That is a perfect place to leave it. If you want to explore how to turn all these signals into an ordered queue and finally stop using vibes to run your marketing, go check out www.contentship.io. You can see how the tools and the framework we talked about today actually work in practice.
It's definitely worth a look.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go build that plan.